She's still experiencing issues after leaving Meghan's employment. And the way she treated me, she says, of Meghan, can only be described as dehumanizing. What she pointed out was that Meghan was incredibly ugly when Harry wasn't around. But as soon as Harry was around, and another point they made was the mask slip.
It always starts the same way, doesn't it? A quiet whisper, a passing comment, and then boom, the entire narrative explodes. But this time, it's not about tiaras or tabloids. This time, it's about something caught on camera, and if what insiders are saying is true, Meghan Markle may never escape it. Hey, real quick, if you're into the real stories behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. We truly appreciate the support. Now let's get into this, because what we're hearing, it's chillin'. For years, Meghan Markle was hailed as the royal family's fresh new face, a symbol of change, of modernity, of hope. But behind the polished interviews and curated Instagram posts, some are saying there was a very different Meghan one the public was never supposed to see. Allegedly, there's video proof. Not speculation, not hearsay, actual footage. And while the clip hasn't been released publicly yet, the people who've seen it, they're saying it's bad. Meghan, reportedly, is caught speaking to a female staffer in a way that left the entire room in stunned silence. Not just firm, not even just angry, but cruel, demeaning. And, worst of all, not out of character. Because according to those close to the situation, this wasn't a slip-up. This wasn't a bad day. This was normal. A pattern that allegedly started not long after the royal wedding and only got worse from there. So what exactly happened behind closed doors? And if this footage ever goes public, what does it mean for Meghan's carefully crafted image? Stick around, it gets even darker.
She's still experiencing issues after leaving Meghan's employment. And the way she treated me, she says, of Meghan, can only be described as dehumanizing.
When the royal spotlight dimmed and the tiaras were tucked back into their velvet boxes, that's when they say the real Meghan Markle stepped forward. No cameras, no curated smiles, just raw, unfiltered power, and for some, it was terrifying. Inside the palace, a nickname quietly started circulating among those who claimed they had lived through it. Not from the press, not from gossip columns, from the people who say they experienced it firsthand. They called themselves the Sussex Survivors Club. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't some late-night comedy jab or tabloid exaggeration. That's the actual name they gave themselves, a name that suggests working under Meghan wasn't just difficult, it was something to survive. And if that's true, what does it say about what really happened behind those palace walls?
That she pointed out was that Meghan was incredibly ugly when Harry wasn't around. But as soon as Harry was around, and another point they made was the mask slip.
You don't call yourself a survivor because your boss was tough or had high standards. No survivor is the kind of word you use when something leaves a scar. When just thinking about that chapter of your life makes your stomach turn. And according to former palace staff, that's exactly what working with Meghan Markle felt like. They say she held a level of control over every single interaction. Nothing left to chance, no smile given freely unless the cameras were rolling. Public Meghan, all warmth and charm. Private Meghan, a whole different story. Orders barked, eyes rolled, comments wrapped in a veneer of professionalism that cut way too deep. It wasn't leadership, it was domination. One aide said they cried after work not once, but multiple times. Another admitted their time at the Sussex residence left them emotionally wrecked. And as the emotional toll grew, so did the questions, especially about the empire Meghan and Harry were building. Remember that whole narrative? The brave escape from the palace to become independent? Netflix deals, Spotify exclusives, podcasts, books, lifestyle brands. It sounded like a dream, a modern fairy tale. But behind the scenes, it's been a slow-motion collapse. The Spotify deal? Gone. Netflix? Quietly canceling projects. Meghan's much-hyped lifestyle brand barely made a ripple. The money's thinning, the buzz is fading, and now, some insiders are wondering, was this whole thing a carefully staged climb to the top? Did Meghan use the victim narrative as a ladder, only to become the very thing she claimed to be escaping? Because this new allegation, this footage, if it ever leaks, can't be dismissed as racist press or old money snobbery or royal protocol drama. It's visual, it's undeniable, and it could wreck the public image she's built so carefully. And what about Harry? Where was he? Some say he'd step in when he was around trying to keep the peace, calm her down, shield the staff, but he wasn't always there, and when he wasn't, things allegedly got worse. So was he in the dark, or did he just not want to see it? This is the guy who's spoken out about trauma, about family dysfunction, about mental health, but was he blind to what was happening right under his nose? Meghan's whole brand has been about compassion, about empowering women, about mental health. But according to more and more people who worked behind the scenes, that brand might be pure fiction. If the footage ever comes out, one insider said, the internet won't just react, it'll explode. Because watching someone preach empathy while treating people like they're beneath her, that's not just hypocritical, that's disturbing. One staffer put it in the simplest, most painful way. She didn't talk to us like people, it was like we were in the way. That's brutal. And when more and more people start saying the same thing, it sticks. It always sticks. Dozens of staffers reportedly walked away within months. Some left quietly, others broke down in tears during meetings. And while the public got smiles and sound bites, behind the scenes it was NDAs, emotional exhaustion, and a cold, obsessive grip on everything. We're talking micromanaging to the tiniest detail, not out of passion, but out of a need to control. How you stood, how you spoke, how you breathed. Working for Meghan, they say, wasn't just about doing your job, it was about total devotion. And the palace, what did they do? Almost nothing. When the palace had a chance to step in, to step up, what did they do? Almost nothing. The royal institution, already bruised from public scrutiny and scandal after scandal, stayed mostly silent. Anytime allegations about staff mistreatment popped up, defenders ran to the usual excuses: racism, culture clash, bitterness. But here's the thing. These weren't bitter ex-employees leaking to tabloids for clout. These were people who cracked under pressure, who broke, who left, who couldn't take it anymore, and finally spoke up. They weren't chasing headlines, they were chasing truth. And out of that truth came a nickname so infamous, it echoed through the palace halls: Duchess Difficult. At first, people laughed it off. Just another sexist, racist label from the press, right? But behind closed doors, inside the royal machine, staff didn't use that name lightly. It was a warning, a signal, a cry for help. Because what was happening, according to insiders, wasn't just micromanaging or diva behavior, it was emotionally abusive. It was toxic. Outing matches, personal jabs, a fixation on hierarchy that eerily mirrored the exact royal system Meghan claimed she was running from. And don't think it stopped after the royal exit. Even her private staff, handpicked, post-palace reportedly saw the same patterns: emotional manipulation, public humiliation, high turnover, people breaking down, people being broken by her. One assistant made a minor scheduling mistake and Meghan allegedly berated her in front of the entire team, reduced her to tears. You don't fix that with a smiling podcast or a designer dress. That sticks, that stays. And the silence from Meghan's side, it's deafening. No denial, no lawsuit, no public statement, just nothing. And when you stay silent for long enough, that silence becomes its own kind of answer. Especially when the people speaking up aren't strangers. They were there, in the room, they lived it. One source said Meghan once mocked a staffer's British accent during a meeting. Everyone laughed nervously except the woman it was aimed at. She just sat there, frozen. Moments like that don't go viral. They don't make headlines, but they bruise deep. They linger. And if that rumored footage ever leaks, it won't just be a PR hit. It'll be a reveal, a moment of unmasking. Because it won't be about one bad day or one harsh comment, it'll confirm everything that's been said for years. And maybe the hardest part of all this, Meghan Markle wasn't some outsider clawing for fame. She was celebrated, worshipped. She was supposed to be the one who changed the system, not became it. She was supposed to be the voice of empathy, of equality, of change. But now, people are asking, what if the person wearing the crown of progress was actually the one holding others down? It's not just one voice anymore, it's a chorus. Different people, different years, same pain. Staffers crying in bathrooms, dreading morning meetings, being told they mattered while feeling like they didn't. And it's not just behind the scenes anymore. Even her career outside the palace is unraveling. Spotify pulled the plug with a public swipe, saying her content just didn't deliver. Netflix, quiet cancellations, little return. Her lifestyle brand, flatlined. Each failure begs the same question. Maybe the issue isn't the audience. Maybe it's the woman behind the brand. Because social media makes it easy to create a persona, a version of yourself wrapped in soft lighting and buzzwords. But what happens when that version is challenged? Not by rumor, not by gossip, by real people with real experiences and real pain. Some of those staffers believed in Meghan deeply. They signed on because they thought they were building something meaningful. And that's what makes this so gutting. It's not betrayal from a stranger. It's betrayal from someone they admired, someone they thought stood for them. And maybe that's why one former employee's words hit so hard. Calling ourselves survivors? It wasn't dramatic, it was the truth. Because if even half of these stories are true, then this isn't about a career or a podcast or a Netflix deal. It's about the emotional wreckage left behind in the name of a carefully constructed image. For all the talk of kindness and mental health, the question now is, who did Meghan Markle actually help? Her staff? Damaged. Her partnerships? Falling apart. Her image? Fragile. And as the performance begins to crack, the silence from her team says everything. Because when you control the narrative and still choose not to defend the people you hurt, that silence becomes its own cruelty. Ooh, a cruelty that says, you don't matter, you're replaceable, you're voiceless. But not anymore. Because the truth always finds a way out in quiet testimonies, in brave whispers, in leaked footage that can't be ignored. Meghan built a brand on giving people a voice. Now those very people are speaking. And finally, the world is listening. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the truth will ever come out? And if that footage does leak, what happens next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Anna Talks to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. We're just getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.